Welcome back to SuicideFantasyFootball.com, Jim. Let's talk a little bit about Fat Eyes.
Yeah.
Brother and brother talking about brother versus brother.
Yeah.
You got Eli and Peyton, Jim. Let's say this week you could go into San Francisco with either one of them. Who you picking?
Unlike reality of our lives, I'm going with the younger brother to be the better one. I think that Eli Manning...
Handsomer?
Probably. I don't really know. I don't check out Eli or Peyton Manning. But I think that history shows Eli Manning is a better playoff, big game quarterback than Peyton Manning ever will be. Their first 9 playoff games, Eli's 6-3, Peyton was 3-6. I think Peyton had better weapons on his team. I think that he choked a lot. I think that he has 1 Super Bowl. Eli has 1 Super Bowl. But if you look at who played a better game, I think Eli played a better game in that Super Bowl than Peyton did. If it wasn't for Rex Grossman and his team returned an interception for a touchdown, Peyton would never have a Super Bowl, and he would be called the epic failure of fantasy and regular football quarterbacks.
Ooh, we can't say a fantasy, dude. He was
playoff, right.
Okay. Now, go back to the beginning of their careers, and if you could start a franchise with one of them, you're saying you would start that franchise with Eli over starting that franchise with Peyton, knowing what you know about him now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can go with the hype of Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning puts up big regular season numbers. He has games where he looks awesome and he hits receivers in stride and he wins 45-0, and then he gets to the playoffs and he gets blown out by the Broncos or whatever it was in the wild card game. He got blown out by the Jets 45-0.
Yeah, but he took him to the Super Bowl against the Saints. Do you blame him?
Yeah, and he lost. He choked. He threw the interception. Driving down, we had the chance to play the game. He throws the interception to Tracy Porter to lose the game. Absolutely 100% Peyton Manning's fault.
You're not blaming Hank.
No, I'm not blaming Hank Baskett. He's a 5th-string wide receiver on the special teams hands unit. That's not his fault.
All he had to do was catch the ball.
All he had to do was catch the ball. But the fact of the matter is, when you're an elite quarterback, as you say you are, when you're down 7, driving to win the game, you be Ben Roethlisberger or Tom Brady, like he's done more than once, and drive down to tie the game or win the game as the quarterback. And Peyton Manning lumped up and threw an interception to a guy. He threw the same route 3 times in a row, and the Saints guy Tracy Porter knew where he was going. He threw the same route every time.
I disagree with one thing you're saying. You know, this week in the playoffs, Eli, who's 6-3, has definitely proven to be a better playoff quarterback than 3-6 Peyton. But if I'm starting a franchise, you got to go with Peyton, dude. Peyton made the Colts into a superpower for years.
Well, they went.
When they were horrible. A Super Bowl.
Yeah, won.
A Super Bowl, a lot of games, won over a whole city who now are diehard Colts fans.
Yeah, because they were losers, because they were bad, horrible teams forever, and he came back and made them respectable, where Eli Manning hasn't. Eli Manning has put up huge numbers, got his team back to the Super Bowl. If he goes back again this year, it's hands down Eli Manning. There's not even a question anymore. If he goes back and wins, he's absolutely better than him. And even now, he's better than him in a playoff game. Listen, if you're going Monday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins or some other bum team that Peyton Manning destroys, yeah, absolutely. Who looks prettier when they throws the ball? Who would be a better, John Facenda highlight? Great, Peyton Manning. But real football player, you got money on it, gun to your head, Eli Manning wins every time.
All right, so then, being that that's your opinion of Peyton Manning, so then I got to ask you, Peyton Manning or Donovan McNabb? Just because it's you.
Peyton Manning, I guess.
All right, good.
He's got. I can't really make the argument. Again, I think here's my argument against Peyton Manning. He's always had the best offensive weapon of almost any team in football. He's always had 1 or 2 All-Pro wide receivers, an All-Pro running back, 2 All-Pro linemen, and an All-Pro tight end. So it's chicken or the egg. Did Peyton Manning make all those guys? I don't know. I don't think so. I think those guys have had careers elsewhere that did really well.
Who's ever done anything leaving Peyton Manning?
Edgerrin James.
Edgerrin James still didn't really do shit.
Yeah, but he was old.
Come on,
I guess it's
Jim.
not careers elsewhere.
Yes, but don't say that. Stokely never did anything.
Stokely got back and did okay, but they were all hurt. That's what happens. They play for Peyton Manning and they get hurt and they're washed up and they go away. But listen, the offensive linemen are ridiculous. Jeff Saturday's a Hall of Famer. Tariq Glenn's a Hall of Famer. He had other really good players. Their defense always sucked.
Dallas
but
Clark.
When you look at that and look at any other quarterback, how many offensive Hall of Fame linemen did Donovan McNabb have? How many years did he have playing with John Running's not a Hall of Famer. He's a good player. He's a great player. He's not a Hall of Famer. He got dominated by Michael Strahan, and he'll never get in because everybody hates him because he piled on the piles. But when you look at those guys, he didn't. He had Marvin Harrison for 13 years. Marvin Harrison, one of the best wide receivers of all time.
I agree.
He had Reggie Wayne. He had Dallas Clay. He had all those guys. He had weapon after weapon after weapon. Any team he played.
How'd Reggie Wayne do without Donovan McNabb? Without Peyton Manning.
I don't know, because listen, I'm not saying you can take Peyton Manning out and put your brother in there to throw a quarterback against him, like Pimp Orslowski and Greg the Hammer Valentine playing this year. You had to have a real NFL quarterback. I'm sure if Kerry Collins played the whole year, he would have been okay. But listen, he had all those weapons. He's always, whenever he played a game, he had better offensive weapons than any other team he played. I guarantee he had better offensive weapons than the Jets he played against and lost to 45-0. He had better offensive weapons than the Broncos that he lost to. He always had the best offense going out there.
Believe it or not, we disagree. Tell us what you think. Jim at SuicideFantasySports.com, Eric at SuicideFantasySports.com. Check us out on Facebook. We're /Suicide Fantasy Football. On Twitter, capital SFF, lowercase COM. Subscribe to our videos below. Check us out Monday nights. Blog Talk Radio, Fantasy Football Overload, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock.